Hi everyone, welcome back to another Swans Cast podcast. So we've got a special one for you today. Obviously, we've got the World Cup knocking on the door. Wales have qualified for the first time in, I can't remember off the top of my head how long, but the first time since I've been alive, let's just put it that way. And it's a bit of a big deal, I guess, other than the location. Maybe that's a bit of a talking point. But I've got with me to join fans of one of our group stage opposition. We've got Abraham and we've got Rich, who are from the Seattle Sports Union. You might have seen them before on the podcast a couple of times, back when we discussed Jordan Morris's move to the Swans. But now we're here to talk a little bit more about perhaps Wales USA. Obviously, we'll touch on some of the other stuff as well. But welcome back. Nice to see you both.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's good to see you.
Yeah, always good to have you on, guys. And just before we progress any further, can I ask you both to remind all of the listeners or viewers where, if they would like to hear more of your thoughts and your talking about Seattle and the USA, where they can find you?
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, my name is Abraham Deweese. Check us out at Seattle Sports U on Twitter. Also, check out our podcast. That's out on Captivate FM, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find all your great podcasts out there.
Yep. That's brilliant. So, Rich, do you wanna plug yours as well?
Yeah. I'm the soccer editor, as it were, though I haven't written as much as I should. But you can find me at capital SSU _ capital Richard capital M on Twitter, and it's a mixture of sports and soccer mostly, and other just things of interest. So. And I'm on the podcast on a regular basis as well.
And he's repping the Swansea top today. So is that last season's black kit?
Yeah, it's still. And I got a Morris on the back.
It's the year before under Steve Cooper.
Yeah, the year before.
Yeah. Well, wish we got to see more of him, but I'm sure we'll get to discuss a little bit about Jordan Morris and how he's recovered, perhaps from obviously the injury that ended his time in Wales. But first of all, I want to start a little bit about the championship, the EFL, and Swansea specifically, and how the club is perceived over with you guys in America, and specifically Seattle, I guess. So, we came to speak to you the first time because Jordan Morris came to Swansea. That was the sort of catalyst, I guess, why we got in touch and why we did the podcast. I'm just wondering now, he wasn't here last season. He went back after the injury. Is the perception of Swansea the same? Like, are people interested in the club? Or is it just because of a transfer like that people sort of take the interest? I'm just wondering, what is the perception of Swansea as a club right now?
Do you want the brutal, honest truth, or would you like a vapid, vicious
honest truth?
lie?
We just want to know, because the next part of it would be in comparison to the Premier League.
Okay. Because
kind of see how much of a difference it makes.
Because I got plenty of lies to throw out there. But, I think the doing the sports podcast, I come up with a lot of stuff. But the brutal honest truth, it's back of mind. Everybody who likes international soccer, international football, has already gone back to their allegiances. That would be usually the more popular teams, in the Premier League. Rich, you might have a different spin on this, though.
No, I think that you're right. Really, for the American audience, it's the Premiership or nothing. Really, most folks, unless they just somehow fall in love with some other, team, and randomly become a Queens Park Rangers or a Brighton or I don't know, Coventry or something like that. They find a kit that they think is just really cool, and it happens to be for a lower tier team. They're just going to watch the Premier League because it's easy to watch and it's what's on TV. 90 of international professional soccer, it has the bandwidth of 80% of what's out there on actual broadcast TV. And everything else, you have to go to a streaming platform, or you have to go to a niche, third tier cable provider to find, something else. I will say that the big game here for Swansea tomorrow with Cardiff is on ESPN Plus. Of course, it's at the most obnoxious hour, 5 a.m. for me and 4 a.m. for Abraham. So, I mean, that's still 7 Eastern. You're just not going to get a whole lot of eyeballs on on a big game in the championship.
You know what, Rich? Something that occurred to me is there's also a popularity based off of American invested British teams, right? Yeah. So when you look at Stan Kroenke, he's got the Arsenal, right? There's a lot of cross promotion with his. I believe he has the Rams, doesn't he? The American football Rams, and then you'll take a look at the Glazier Group, who also has Tampa, right?
Tampa Bay and Manchester United.
Manchester United, and you'll find a lot of cross promotion with that. Even Albert Smith with West Ham, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. They're generally a nothing Premier League team.
West Ham.
West Ham.
Oh, they've been climbing last few years.
Middle of the road.
They have they're usually mid-table, and then like every 5 years they're like top 5 or something like that.
But they'll get some cross promotion in America too.
Well, we got the allegiance. Well, I say allegiance. Our owners also have the allegiance with DC United, or one of them.
Oh, we've talked about this, haven't we? Yeah. Yes. The ones that put together mediocre teams in America, like the Tennessee the what's the basketball team, Rich? The Memphis Grizzlies.
Memphis Grizzlies, yeah.
Are they not doing well at DC then? Are they not great?
DC was bottom of the table of the entire league this year. And the issue is that they fired their longtime head coach, who'd been with the club as a player for, 8 years. And then he was the head coach for more than a decade. And since he left, they've kind of stumbled from manager to manager to manager with no actual philosophy of how they want to play football, no how do they want to recruit players, no build out the academy, and this is the type of academy player we're going to do. They just don't have a philosophy.
I mean, that sounds better for what you're saying. Our system sounds better, because a lot of Swans fans right hate the fact that the same owners have DC. They all think it's quite a big argument that people think money is put more into the American club than the Swans. External money now, like investment, I guess.
Right.
But to hear how badly they're doing, I just, it's one of them, innit? You read and you see things, but you guys, are you in the same league as Seattle? Are they in the same league as you? Or is it different?
Yeah, same league, different conference.
Yeah. So you obviously know a little bit more about the detail, and they're clearly not necessarily doing good there. So I don't know whether we should be envious or.
Actually, can I ask you guys about there's a legendary team called Fulham, and American bought them out, Shad Khan.
Yeah.
And this is the same guy that's run the Jacksonville Jaguars NFL team on the ground, and the same guy who throws a lot of money at All Elite Wrestling, and it flounders and nobody watches it. What are your guys' opinion on him? Because Fulham, I always remember that being like a legendary team, and now it's kind of a nothing.
This would be one for Lee, probably.
Yeah, I think Fulham's a bit of a funny one. They've sort of they come up and down between the Premier League and the Championship. They seem to be stuck in that vortex of not being able to sort of consolidate when they come up. But they always seem to have plenty of money. There's always money thrown at them. They always seem to buy good players and have a good squad on paper. And you think this is the year that they're gonna consolidate, and then they seem to come straight back down. But
looks like this year for them, though. They seem to be doing a decent job.
Yeah, I was going to say this year they've come up and it seems to be going a lot better. I think they might actually stay in the league this year, and I think if they can consolidate with the money that is being put into the club, and I think a massive factor is, and always has been in English football, is that teams based in London tend to attract a lot more investment, a lot more players, just because of where it is. So I think if they can stay up maybe 2 or 3 years in a row, I think they'll be fine. They'll be sort of mid-tier Premier League for a while if they can do it. It's a big if.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, going forward with the question about the Swans then. So obviously the reason I asked was because of the interest peaked when Morris came. Just wondering what it is like now. There's obviously the link with the American owners, and maybe the fact that Wales is in the World Cup might turn some heads just to some players, see what they're doing. But back to Jordan Morris then. Just as perhaps a little bit of a check-in, it'd be nice to see how he's doing, how he recovered. We haven't spoken perhaps a year or so. So has he got back into the team? Is he showing the same sort of form? And where's he looking when it goes towards getting in the team for the World Cup? Or would we likely see him line up against Wales and some of the Swans players that he might have got to know?
I'll answer the club level. Rich, hopefully you can fill in with the World Cup. At the club level, he's made a full return. He's a starter. He'd been playing pretty much the entire year. He helped the Sounders win the Champions League for CONCACAF, and so now the Sounders will advance to the world stage for club teams. And yeah, he made a very good. He rebounded very well. Maybe has a little bit less of a step on his speed, which is his game, is that speed. But for MLS, I think he's still a valuable contributor. I don't know if he's going to make the World Cup, Rich. What do you think?
Yeah, it's nobody really knows. He's definitely on the fringe of. There's probably, I'd say there's 20 players that are in, like, unless they get injured right before the World Cup. There's the top 20 that are for sure in, and he is in that next tier because I think rosters are up to 26. I think this go round, and so he's vying for one of those last 6 slots along with his teammate Christian Roldan. Morris, though, of the entire American pool, is kind of that unique player who can play both on the wing as well as at center forward. As a second forward, he has a unique skill set, and he is the only player in the American pool that has that pure pace. That, like, all right, it's late in the game, we're down a goal, we need someone that can change the game, that can change the calculus of the defense, right? Because he can always go, get behind and go over the top. And then the other thing that he can do that no one else can do is no one else in the American pool at either winger or forward has his pure physicality. He is he is a 6'4", 250-pound man in a 5'11", 180-pound man's body. Okay, like, he is way stronger than anyone his size has business being. And so, like, that, like, it's the trope in soccer of, oh, he's got the combination of power and pace, right? Well, Jordan Morris really still does have that power and pace that can change a game and flip it on its head. He's nowhere near the skill level of your national team's talisman, Gareth Bale, but I would say that that ability that Bale has to flip a game on its head in one moment because of his physical skills, right? Not because he's a smart football player, or anything else, but just the fact that Bale is usually faster than every single other player on the field and can do amazing things with the ball. Like, it's that same type of a thing. Obviously, Jordan Morris, to a much lesser extent, he is not anywhere near the class of player that Bale is, but just that ability to flip a game on its head is unique. And so I think that he has a 60-70% chance of making the World Cup roster.
If he does make the roster, I mean, he's obviously he has one of the most caps, right, on the USM.
Oh yeah.
But he's not going to replace Pepe or Christian Pulisic, right?
No. I mean, he's not. He's probably not going to be a starter. He's going to be definitely, but one of the key guys off the bench. The head man loves him. He always plays, and but he very well could be a complement to Christian Pulisic and playing on the right hand side. So we'll see. It's hard to say.
Anything to add on to that, Lee?
I was just going to ask. I think obviously we talked about Jordan Morris and we had Paul Arriola as well. Is it the same sort of scenario for him? Is he likely to make the team, or is he sort of similar in a similar position?
He's in exactly the same kind of boat. He's obviously a different player than Morris, but he's a veteran. Coach trusts him. If he's fit, he's in that last 6 guys to get on the roster kind of slot. Much to the soccer fanboy Euro snob element of the American national team fan base that loves to bag on anyone that's ever played professionally in the United States. So
I think Arriola makes it, to be honest. The utility of him is fairly impressive, but there is a former Sounder. I don't remember where he played in England, but DeAndre Yedlin has already made the team. So I want to give a little props out to the local kid who grew up here in the Seattle area and has made a name for himself.
Miami. He plays for Miami now.
Does he play?
He was at Newcastle for a while, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he was at Newcastle for, I want to say, 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
So was he like first team then? Is he right back?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, he will be. And he's Rich, you can explain this better than me. He's kind of an attacking defender.
Yeah. I mean, he's a wing back. I mean,
yeah,
really,
that's what the trend is at the moment in football.
But wing backs. No one pays attention to this, but when he first came on the stage, he was really good at attack and terrible at defense, and now his defense is at least adequate, maybe a little more better than adequate. So he's not a complete liability at right back like he was when he debuted at the 2014 World Cup.
Okay, well, obviously interesting to hear about Arriola and Morris. Like from just a Swansea fan perspective, it would be nice if they were around there and they managed to get on the pitch when Wales are playing, just to see it. It would be good. But sure. We'll see if that happens. But on a bigger stage, then let's just keep the focus on the World Cup. How are the USA looking going into the tournament? I did have a quick look at the form, and it's a bit better than Wales's form on paper. I think maybe friendly / the competition we were in skews it a bit, but rather than all the losses that Wales's form is showing, USA, you've got a couple of wins, a couple of draws. I don't know, the last couple of games where Saudi Arabia result and the Japan result, is that a little bit disappointing? I was just wondering where do you feel you are going into the tournament?
The United States right now is the team is a sum less than its parts. It is not playing up to the potential that it has. Last summer in 2021, the United States won the Nations League. They beat Mexico in the final head-to-head. And then they also won our regional tournament, the Gold Cup, also beating Mexico in the final head-to-head. And that was so Nations League was the first team, like the A team for both countries. And then our B team went to the Gold Cup and beat them head-to-head. And so there was a ton of momentum there. There was a really iconic moment where Pulisic hit a penalty really late in the game to give the United States the final lead 3-2, and he runs to the sideline, he rips off his shirt and does the pose that's popular and everything. So but since then everyone's form has been on a downtrend basically. With the exception of Walker Zimmerman, who is probably going to be the number one center back for the United States. He plays for Nashville and is a big, imposing, classic American center back who wins everything in the air and is a threat on set pieces. So really, other than just a handful of guys, the whole team's form and more importantly, their chemistry is just off. It's not good right now.
Well, I think part of that has to do with a movement towards youth. There's not a lot of experienced guys. I mean, you have Kellen Acosta, you have Pulisic, but I mean, you got a lot of younger guys, right, Rich? Like Giovanni Reyna in there, and
I mean, you got guys that are very talented between the ages of 18 and 22. And you got a ton of guys between 22 and 26. But what you're missing is the so-called lost generation. It's Jordan Morris's cohort. It's the guys that are 26 to 32. There's nothing there. It's just a handful of guys in the national team pool who, for whatever reason, were never called up. I mean, there's plenty of talented players in that age cohort for the United States in the player pool, theoretically, but there's just tons of those guys that never got called in, and because of that, they just never developed on the international stage. And now at this point, it's, too late, right? They're too old to be brought in a lot of people's minds. So, there's definitely that lack of, young enough but still veteran experience at the international level. And I was going to say one thing that, and I don't know, I'll be honest, I've not paid attention to Wales, but like, is Aaron Ramsey still in the mix? And it's kind of like the captain.
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny one. He seems to mysteriously be injured before sort of some friendly games, and then he'll be fully fit by the time the big competitions come around. So
he's not captain these days, though, is he?
It seems to happen quite a lot.
Do you remember an American basketball player named Allen Iverson?
Yeah.
See, he had a big, really famous rant. You probably see him, and it's like, practice. We're talking about practice, not a game, practice. And I just think of that when you mentioned Aaron Ramsey being injured for friendlies, but available for games that mean something. I mean, the guy's 32. He's been a core piece. But the Americans do not have someone like him, and they don't have any of those other players that are, complementary to him, that have been the kind of the core in the mix, that can step into that captain role or that near captain type role and really settle things down. And I am very worried for the World Cup.
Yeah, he used to be captain before, I think. But I think Bale is these days, isn't he?
Okay.
I think. I could be wrong.
Yeah, Bale has taken the reins on that because Ramsey doesn't play an awful lot. But I know obviously.
Will Christian Bale play for the national team?
Gareth Bale,
sorry. Yeah. Christian Bale, yes.
I mean,
I'm asking about Christian Bale. Will Batman be playing for Wales?
I think Christian Bale is Welsh as well, isn't he? I think.
If he's fit, I don't know how he's getting on so much actually over there. Maybe you can tell us a bit about Bale's form and what he's been doing. I feel like
he's not played. No. He's been a very expensive trophy piece for LAFC.
He sells kits and he sells merch, but it's not. But he hasn't made the field that often.
I would say that they had a playoff game on Thursday night, and he was not in the whatever it is. It's not the 18 anymore, the 22, whatever. He was not active for the match. So, with that being said, the reporters are like, "Well, he's healthy, he's training." And my guess
get injured for the World Cup.
I guess he just does not want to go play unless he is 100% sure.
He's Wales through years, right? So he put his body on the line for Wales, but I think he's just got to the point where he don't care about any club football anymore. He turns up for Wales and wants to play golf.
Yeah,
but he probably is desperate to not get injured because of how much Wales qualifying for the World Cup means to him.
Right,
like it's the one thing that when he's had a couple of years of, like after the Real Madrid went sour and he didn't play so much, and he had the loan to Tottenham, but then went back and again didn't play so much. Like he had a couple of years where he's not really been the player he was before, but he's always been there for Wales if he's fit. Like, and he tries his hardest. So I think that's, if anything, I would speculate that any excuse to get out of the match until after the World Cup. But then after the World Cup, I'm not sure how much he's going to care so much about his club career.
Yeah, I think the rumors have been circulating for a long time that he's sort of due to retire. I think it was if we didn't qualify for the World Cup, I think that was it. But the fact that we've managed to get there somehow magically, I think he desperately needs to be there. And I think it's probably the last time we'll see him play. I think, but we'll see. But there were rumors circulating around here that he was injured for the World Cup. That's why he wasn't playing for LA. But then I think that's been rubbish. No, I think like
he probably tried saying that so that they could keep him out of the squad, and then all of a sudden he's made a quick recovery the week before the training camp.
Yeah, it's kind of the reverse of Aaron Ramsey, isn't it?
I was going to say that he when he's been on the field, he's been electric and whatnot. But I mean, Los Angeles has really played almost their entire season without him, and even when he came, they've not been dependent on him. He's really been a luxury player that you know, if he's fit and wants to play and everything, they're happy to use him. You know, I mean, who wouldn't? But they're not at all dependent on him, and I think that, you know, he has a very good chance of playing in the next two rounds of the playoffs, which would be the conference final and then MLS Cup. I think that there is a likelihood if LA makes it through that stage that Bale does play in those matches just due to their significance to his club. I mean, I agree that he probably is not enthusiastic about his club football right now, but he also does need some time on the pitch because
he does.
If I'm not mistaken, there's no window for friendlies right before the World Cup. It's like
I think it's straight in now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the next game is the first game of the World Cup. I
was going to say
November 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe with Bale, it's like a case of he's in a situation where he's so desperate to play, like I said, that he's like, I'm not playing a game of football with any sort of niggle. I need to be 100% fit and then I'll play. But if I'm not 100% fit, I'm not risking it, because he's had such a history of stupid injuries that cost him a lot of game time that I'd imagine he's like 100% or nothing. He's not like a lot of players will be like, oh, I'm only 70%, but I'll put my heart and soul in and I'll put my body on the line. You'll do that perhaps when he puts the red jersey on. But I think he wants.
It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine that he doesn't give 100%, because I went to the last Wales game where they played Poland and he was everywhere. He was running everywhere. He was tackling everyone. And there was one tackle where, you know, two players have gone for a ball 50-50. And I think you could just feel the crowd tense up, thinking that he might come out injured. It's just really strange because he runs everywhere for Wales, and then obviously takes his foot well off the gas when it comes to the club football.
You've got some questions, have you?
Yeah, I have one that, like, we argue about this on our podcast all the time. Yeah. So we have a couple.
Well, you're wrong about it, and then I have to correct you.
Well, actually, it's Matt. It's Matt who is the one that bangs this drum in particular. But it's some of the other guys on our podcast really get mad that all the Sounders players go away for international duty, right? And so I want a pair of born and bred European football nuts to explain to us, our dumb American audience, what it actually means that your nation's club has qualified for the World Cup, what it means to these players who have never had a chance to be in the World Cup, and why international football still is the creme de la creme, the top of the mountain, the pinnacle of the pyramid for anyone that laces up a set of boots.
I think you could add on to that. One of your boys, Ben
Cabango.
Thank you. He made the Welsh team, right?
Yeah, he'd probably be on the bench, I think, for the
right. But but to add on to what Rich is asking, you know, like there's got to be a certain amount of swag that goes with that, certain amount of drip, you know.
Well, if I go in more detail, right, if you look at the Welsh team, you've got Joe Allen as a Swansea Academy product. You've got Dan James, who he came into the professional scene coming through our academy. He started somewhere else, but we brought him through. Ben Cabango, as you said. Connor Roberts is homegrown, born and bred Swansea. He made his name here. Anyone I'm missing out that's obvious there, Lee? Yes, I'm just looking at the moment at
Roden. Did you say Joe Roden? Then?
Yeah, Roden, another centre back who probably will start again, come through our academy. He's Swansea born and bred, if you like. Ben Davis again, another one. He's one of the experienced players there, and he came through our academy in the Premier League, actually, which was a lot harder to get into the first team from youth in the Prem, but he managed to come make a name for himself. Plays for Tottenham now, and yeah, so we've had quite a few with Swansea going into Wales and making a good name for themselves, giving a good account. But getting to a tournament, as I said earlier, it's first World Cup for us. But I would say, for me, when we got to the Euros, we've been the last two, but the first one especially, that was the big one that we were all like this is amazing. Like because we've been so long without a big tournament in Wales. Maybe if you speak to people from England, it's a bit different because it's kind of like they're expected to get there every time, and they're expected to kind of like later knockout stages. But for us, it's like we're at a tournament. This is amazing. Like, and the entire Euros, that first one was just a party. Like, the whole thing was a party. I mean, if you go there, I guess like they had such a good time in France. I think it was France. They had the song, the Don't Take Me Home song, which has obviously stuck since. But the World Cup, it will be the same. It's just, I think this World Cup specifically, as much as it's still important for us to be getting to the first World Cup in however long, because of where it is in Qatar. Oh, we've lost him. You can jump back in if he clicks the link if you want to send him a message. Because it's the first, because it's in Qatar and all the drama around that and the time of year, and I think a lot of the qualifying was done in the COVID period. It just hasn't felt exactly the same as the other tournaments.
Right.
But in regards to how important it is, I think for Wales especially, it means a lot because of it's not all the time that we go. So when we do go, it's a big deal. Don't know if you've got anything else to say on that, Lee.
Yeah, I think if, like you said about the Euros in 2016, I think if you ask the question how important international football is, maybe 2 years before that, 2013, 2014, I think most Welsh fans would say it was a bit of a distraction when you had the international break. You were thinking, it's another week without club football. Wales was sort of not performing, not doing much, so there wasn't a lot of interest in it. So the international break was seen as a distraction, and you were just hoping that any players from your club that went away didn't come back injured, and there wasn't much interest in it. I think the success now with Bale hitting the peak of his football and dragging us through tournaments, getting us to a Euros, getting us to a World Cup, I think it's become massive. Whether that continues now with, I think it's going to be Bale's last World Cup and Ramsey and probably Joe Allen and all these players. I think, it's a bit of a difficult one because I remember before when Wales were underperforming, that international football was just the bottom of the pile. You didn't want, it's sort of a distraction. You didn't want your players coming back injured. Yeah, like we said, with the success that's come now, I can't wait for the World Cup. You can't wait for the next Wales game. Wales games sell out all the time. It's the talk everywhere. It seems to have brought a lot of people together, obviously, because historically it's just been Swansea versus Cardiff was Welsh football. That was it. But now,
even in the stands, like at Wales games,
even within Wales games, there's trouble between the fans. But now that seems to have stopped, and everyone's just riding this wave now. So yeah, it's massive at the moment.
So do you guys go to the games?
Now and then.
Cardiff is the home stadium, right?
It's easier for him because he lives up near. But
I live near Cardiff, so it's just only about 40 minutes from Swansea.
Was there any weirdness when you guys played Ukraine? Was it kind of a strange environment with everything going on in the world?
I think it was just a bit awkward when it wasn't really. It was fine in the end, but before you go into it, you're like, because of all the drama and the stuff that's going on, don't know how to think about football really in the grand scheme of world events. But then if you think of it another way, like I guess that's a distraction for them who are going through that tough time as well, where it's something they can enjoy, get together about, look forward to. I know ultimately they didn't get the result they wanted, but I guess like they would never wanted to have been gifted it either or anything like that. And I think there was a couple of close calls for us. It wasn't like we got through easily. We had to work for it, so it was a good game in the end, and I think that was perhaps the right thing. It obviously got delayed, and it was a bit tricky, but something that I guess you're not going to have again.
It was a strange atmosphere. We really didn't want to play Ukraine. It was strange because after we won our first game to get to the playoff final, we were just hoping that maybe Scotland would beat Ukraine and we wouldn't have to play that game. It was a real conflict because you think, we really wanted to get to the World Cup and it was such a big game for us, but also that was going on as well. So it was a bit of a weird, but then as soon as the game kicked off, it was, we're back into, we need to win this game. It's so big. It was weird before the game, and then during and after the game, it was kind of just business as usual.
It's all right, yeah.
Was that the one that you needed to get into the World Cup?
Yeah, it was the final of the playoffs, wasn't it? So it was like whoever won that was going through. Lee, did you have one or two questions you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, the only question I have is just touching on the World Cup as well. I think we look at some of the groups in the World Cup, and I think Germany and Spain are in the same group. I mean, that would have been horrendous to try and even qualify. But I think if we're looking at the group that we're in, you've got Wales, obviously USA, Iran, and England. I think every team in that group thinks that they can qualify. I mean, we've been looking at England recently, and even though they're the so-called maybe big team in the group, their form has been awful. And I think if the World Cup wasn't around the corner, I think there'd be a change of management because they've been that bad. I just wanted to understand what, even though you said maybe USA are not looking great at the moment, do you think there's a realistic chance of going through?
I mean, I think so. You know, the United States has a history of playing well against England. I think the headline from the last time we played in the World Cup was I think it's the Yanks win 1-1. Something like that. I think it was in the 2014 World Cup, or maybe it was 2010. I can't remember. But it was a tie that was the English press touted as an American win. So the Yanks
expectations are stupid. That's why.
Yeah.
The media is all over them. I think the media is their biggest enemy. Like the expectations around England going into any event, like they just kill them before they've started.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. They haven't won the World Cup since 60 whatever.
Yeah, but honestly, it's coming home every time. Like as soon as it starts, that's all. They're the worst. Honestly, it's the worst thing to be like. Even though we're not in England, we kind of get it all because of the way that our media works here. So we don't get much. They'll be all about when this happens now. When the World Cup happens, this is what will happen on our TV and everything. You'll have the entire program will be about England going to the World Cup, yeah, and we're in the same group as them, and we'll probably get like 5 minutes at the end.
It reminds me of the Dallas Cowboys here in America, where they just constantly drone on about how they're going to win the Super Bowl every year. And they haven't won since the 90s, and it's like, enough, win, and maybe I'll care. That's going to be unfortunate if you have to. It sounds like it's insufferable, to be honest.
But that's why when we've not got better than them or knocked them out or whatever, like we celebrate a lot, and then they're like, oh, they celebrate like it's the best thing in the world. Like, oh my god, they can't even beat us in a match, but like because they beat us, I think when we were in the Euros in the groups with them, they beat us in the group, but then we progressed further than them in the competition. And I think there was like a video of the Welsh team celebrating when they lost to Iceland or something like that. And it just made this big storm in the media. And it's like, well, this is why we celebrate like this, because you just make such a big deal about it. So it's good when we do better, you know? But it doesn't happen very much. So,
yeah.
I think it would be, I know, Rich, you're feeling pretty good about it, but I think it'd be irresponsible to think that the U.S. is going to even win a game. I mean, Iran, that would make their, like, as far as a political statement, that would make a...
I didn't even think of that.
They actually beat the U.S. I want to say
a few World Cups ago. They beat us in the group. Yeah,
and just overlooked them, and they played 100%, and we played at the second gear.
I was going to say that I don't know if you remember a few. I think it was 2 Euros ago, Iceland made a big run to, I want to say, the semifinals of the Euros, right?
Yeah.
And all the commentators were amazed and everything else, but like Iceland was just they had a high level of belief, but more importantly, they had a philosophy that matched the talents of their players, right? And they bought wholeheartedly into that. And right now, I would say, having watched a little bit of the Iranian team, they remind me a lot of that type of a team that is relatively disciplined. They have a philosophy of what they want to do, and they're executing at a pretty high level. And that type of a team can wreck a team like the Americans right now, who have no overriding philosophy, theory of play, style, ethos,
discipline, chemistry.
Yeah, like. In the 90s and the early 2000s, the Americans were so dangerous. I won't say good, because I don't think they were particularly good at football, but they were so dangerous at football because they would sit deep, absorb pressure, and absolutely blast you on counterattacks and on set pieces. Simple, right? I mean, that's like the lower tier UK football strategy if you're the underdog, right? I mean,
everyone who plays against us, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Greece won the Euros playing that way, didn't they? They did exactly the same thing. They won doing that.
So I mean, it was very simple, right? And the Americans were going to outwork you. They were going to. I think the American coach had a thing. He's like, I want you to do the first foul, the first yellow card, the first 50-50, the first offsides, and the first goal, right? Like that was the philosophy in their qualifying, right? And they would play extremely physical, like go hurt someone, like is what they would say, right? And now, with all of these talented players playing at the very highest levels of world football, it's really hard to manage them and come up with a overriding philosophy of how to best utilize them. And then the other problem is a lot of them have been injured off and on throughout the last couple of years as you've made this run up to the World Cup. So I have every fear that this could be as bad as the 1998 World Cup when the United States went 0-3 in France.
Iran could be a little bit of a dark horse, I think. I think it's quite an open group, and maybe it'll be I don't think a lot of people predict the exact order of how it finishes and who beats who and the rest of it. But I think we are getting pushed for time. But I did want to ask one thing, if you don't mind, before we finish and get your views on one thing. Out of the World Cup now, there's been a bit of conversation in, I say the media, like on Sky Sports and all the rest of it. They talked about it a little bit recently about the prospect of things like Champions League final being hosted in America, in the USA, or, for example, just a general Premier League game just being hosted over there. I guess there's also similar conversations with NFL over here and the rest of it, but I just wondered what your thoughts on that. Is there any talk of that over with you guys? Is there like hype around it? Are people excited at the prospect of that, or is it not really nothing, no one's bothered, or it's just one of them tourist events that will end up happening?
I would not want a finals event, that belongs to UK or belongs to Europe or whatever it is. That would seem one, ridiculous, and two, inappropriate. But I think it'd be really cool to see a regular season event. I mean, the NFL comes to England all the time, right? They 2 games a year, 3 games, whatever, what have you. We always send you the worst teams, but that's you guys seem to put up with it. So sorry for all the Jacksonville Jaguar games.
That's Lee's side. That is NFL. He knows all about that. So.
Yeah.
but I mean, there's reciprocity there, and it makes a lot of money. So I can see where why not just have a couple teams, maybe in the lower card, low mid card, pop over to New York and have a game. It would only be like a 5-6 hour flight, right?
Yeah.
I feel like if they were doing it, it would be like the Man United or the Chelsea or someone, though. I think that's what they'd be pushing.
I think you could sell out a lower team. I mean, a team that could use the money.
Yeah.
But Man United,
they wouldn't get it all, though. If they're going to do it, it's not for the teams. It's for the league or whoever's, Sky or someone, probably.
Right. And you bring up a good point, because the Glazer family owns Man United. Why wouldn't they bring them over? Yeah.
I was going to say that I'm of a different opinion here. I actually think that a Champions League final would be fantastic. But one of the issues is we don't have a stadium in the United States that is of the standard that is necessary for a Champions League final. There's no stadium that is built for football, for soccer, that has a dedicated pitch that would be up to the Champions League's standard.
Why can't you do Giant Stadium in East Rutherford?
Yeah, it's not grass.
Surely there would be some, because they go there for the preseason stuff, and
it's field turf. It's like the new field turf. It's not grass.
You're right. Yeah, I was thinking. I was thinking the turf is a big issue with the football, isn't it? Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, but they would find a way to get past that.
You can swap that out.
Yeah,
it's not that big a deal.
Well, but so like you can put in grass, but you can't do what they do in the summer, okay? Which is they like install a temporary turf, and it's crappy, and all the players complain about it. Like, this is like the pinnacle of world professional football. Okay, This is the most important professional event. Sorry, Club World Cup, you kind of suck and not super important compared to the UEFA final. Just my perspective on that. But like you can't have a crappy field. You can't have a a mediocre pitch for this. It would have to be on a place that already has a grass field, and
Rich, you can't take that game away from the people.
Yeah,
like,
we agree with you on that.
I think you've got more chance of a final going away, because I think we've had like European finals in the far east of Europe, where I think we had Arsenal and Chelsea in one final, had to go and play over in Azerbaijan, which seemed crazy because there were two London teams.
Isn't even Europe,
right?
But I think you'd have a hard time getting if you had like a home game, for example. I know, say Man United were home on one weekend. I think the fans would sort of protest against having their home game taken off them.
Right.
So I think you'd probably have more chance of a final in a neutral event. I can imagine. I know, like, I forgot about the sort of the turf side of it, but I look at the new Rams stadium. I think a Champions League final in that sort of arena.
That would be
incredible.
I agree with you though, Abraham. I think that is taking it away from, like, it's the European Champions League, isn't it? Ultimately, and I think there's two camps in it. It's the people who want to make money, who are all for it, and then it's the fans. Like, the fans of the clubs actually involved in the league, they're going so much further than spending more money and all the rest of it. I guess it's an extension to that conversation we had about the Super League. This is where it's come from. I think it's like UEFA's response to, like, how can we, like, stop them wanting to do it again?
Yeah, congrats to everybody that put up a fight, because we were on this show last year and I was like, there's no way you're going to win that. And
it's not over yet. It's not over yet.
It's
over for now. It's over for now. I think it's still under the hood somewhere. They're still working away. How can we get this to work? You hear murmurings of it now and again. Like, someone mentioned something. It's still there with all the people in charge. Like, they want it to happen. It's just, like, obviously didn't go down well. Now they've got to try and work on how they're going to get it passed. So it's not over, I don't think. But I think that's a good place to end. Obviously, a little bit over the 40 minutes, but hopefully that's okay.
I have one quick final.
Go on, Andy.
Quick fire question, just because I forgot about it earlier. We were talking about owners. I think since we last talked, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney took over a team in Wales as well, of all places. Wrexham. Has that boosted Wrexham's stature in the US? Are they now quite well known?
There's a freaking television show about this.
Yeah, they got the wrong team, man. This could have been us. Could have been us.
It could have been us.
Our away kit could have been Deadpool. Like,
I mean, what they've attracted, though, it's just incredible. And Wrexham are not in the professional game at the moment. They're like in the semi-professional, underneath the Football League. And the amount of investment and attention they've managed to bring into the club is incredible. And I went to Wrexham recently, last Christmas time, because my partner was working in Wrexham, so I went to visit, and there's nothing there. It's not the prettiest place. There's nothing there. So the fact that they managed to get this attention is incredible.
Well, I mean, part of it is it's a TV show, right? So they've been able to incorporate Hollywood into a semi-pro game. So I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's obviously two guys who are doing it for the love of the sport, but also able to capitalize. I wish more celebs would do that.
I wish that they just talked to the countrymen, Steve and Jason. I was like, look, you had to go. Let's just take over. We had a documentary, Jack to a King, so they could have done like part 2, but there we are. Ifs and buts. Okay, let's call it there. And for anyone interested, you could say this is perhaps part 1. We're going to jump over on Abraham and Rich's podcast for the Seattle Sports Union, and they're going to ask us some stuff instead. So this could be like first half, go and have a drink or get a cup of tea or whatever. And if you fancy listening to a little bit more about the conversation, going in a different avenue, I guess, maybe a little bit more about the World Cup, but go check that out when, I don't know when yours will be out. I don't actually know when ours is coming out yet, but it's there. It'll probably be both out by the time this launches. So go and check it out. But thank you for listening. Thank you both for joining us for the 3rd time. I'm sure there will be another one down the road. Always enjoyable every time speaking to you. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. Helps us grow. We're nearly at 500. Big milestone for us. And let us know in the comments your thoughts on the World Cup. Do you think USA and Wales can be the 2 teams that can get through together? And would you like to see Jordan Morris on the pitch as a Swans fan? To see, it's kind of like it would be a happy ending if he gets on the pitch, I think, for that experience when he came and it didn't work out quite. So, yeah. But thank you very much, and we shall see you in the next one.